couch. This was like the first time as a preseason game. I mean, I got up and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, let's go. Like, this guy, this is who's going to be throwing the ball. And there's no disrespect to Case Keenum. He did look a little shaky, I'm not going to lie. But, I mean, the throws that Kirk Cousins made, it had to get you excited. I understand that it's early. I understand that it was the first preseason game. We only see a small sample size. But you have to be somewhat excited. And, Murray was able to run 4 rushes, 43 yards. I mean, the offensive line didn't really look like they missed a beat with the first team. So I think it was definitely a successful first preseason game. They played Jacksonville on Saturday. But really excited, really good first preseason game. Now, I want to get into this real quick because I'm not a fan of them, and it's the joint practices. I think that joint practices are very dangerous to players. I think that, a lot of these guys, I mean, they are so competitive, and this is why you keep seeing fights. And Mike Zimmer said it. This is supposed to be just to get better, because now the Vikings, they just practiced with the Jacksonville Jaguars on Wednesday and Thursday. I'm just not a big fan of them. I think it puts players in like such awkward positions because you've got all these guys that really compete, and Mike Zimmer even said like he doesn't want to be on SportsCenter on all over the internet with these fights. You don't want Diggs and Thielen getting into fights. And the good thing is the main cause of those fights and a lot of those stuff is Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey is not participating. He got suspended by his team. I mean, some of the comments that this guy makes are pretty, they're just on the borderline of embarrassment. Like, he calling Eli Manning, telling him he stinks. I mean, come on. Like, listen, I'm not a Giant fan. I live out here in New York. But Eli Manning, this is a 2-time Super Bowl champion. I mean, first ballot Hall of Famer. So, he's got to be careful with what he says. I wanted to kind of see, like, low-key kind of see Ramsey go against Thielen and Diggs, and I would hope that Diggs and Thielen would tear him up. But I think it's almost good that he's not participating in this because, like I said, he's really the guy that kind of stirs the pot, I think, when it comes to these joint practices, and he talks and all this kind of stuff. But for the Vikings, this can be a good thing if everything goes, A-okay. Don't fight. This is a chance to get better. The Jaguars have one of the best defenses in the league. So this is good work for Kirk Cousins. This is good work for the receivers. But like I said, just don't get crazy. It's a preseason game Saturday. You're practicing for 2 days, and this is the last day. This is Thursday. So hopefully when this comes out Sunday, nothing comes out. But this is an opportunity to get better, and I think it's a good test of discipline too, because how many times do we see these joint practices go wrong? I mean, we saw the Jets and the Redskins. We see the Browns. We see these teams, and we see these fights and all this kind of stuff. And I don't think it's necessarily bad for football, and I don't think it's necessarily good for football. Like, you got to love the competitiveness in these players, but you want them to show it in a different way. We don't want them fighting and all this kind of stuff. This is a league that needs to be organized, and we don't want that as fans. I personally don't. I mean, I just want to see them play football. I don't want to see them swing at each other. I just don't think that's good for football. But this is a huge test, I think, for discipline. When you have a coach in Mike Zimmer, let's be honest, he doesn't take a lot of smack. He sat Xavier Rhodes and Stephon Diggs because they went at it that hard. They were going at it, they were jawing, they were talking, they were pushing, and Zimmer just sat him down. I mean, there's no second chances and all that. You don't behave. I mean, I'm just going to sit your butt down. And that's why I love Zim, and that's why I think the Vikings, are going to be fine with it. And it's big that Jalen Ramsey is not participating for the Jaguars, because I would have totally expected something to go down. There had to be something. He was definitely going to stir the pot, something like that. But for the Vikings, it's a huge test, okay? It's an opportunity to get better, okay? So I don't completely hate it. I'm not a fan of the joint practices, but I don't completely hate it. So this is a big test. And, we'll see what happens. I want to switch gears real quick because we just talked to Coach Eric Reveno coming on talking about Josh Okogie. This is a team now that's going to be pretty reliant on Josh and Keita Bates-Diop. I mean, those are two guys that are going to step in, and they're going to be a big part of this team. And I think a lot of people expect the Timberwolves to be a playoff team. I certainly do. And I think a lot of people are I'm not saying writing the Timberwolves off, but in a way saying, you know what, they overachieve. You know, Jimmy Butler is not okay with the front office and Wiggins and Towns. This is a huge year. The Vegas odds came out, and it's 44.5 and an 8 seed. And I don't truly believe that. You know, I don't think that they're an 8 seed. I think they're better than New Orleans. I think they're better than OKC. Those two teams are ahead of the Timberwolves. I mean, when you look at, and, you know, on paper, it's a lot different, obviously. On paper, I mean, the Timberwolves have a way better team than New Orleans and OKC. And I don't know why they threw OKC up there. I mean, I understand that they finished before the Timberwolves last year, but people forget the Wolves finished 47-35. It would have been way better if Jimmy Butler avoided injury and hadn't missed those stints of games. I mean, let's be honest here. Jimmy Butler is he's the most valuable player to that team. Not the most talented, he's the most valuable player to that team. He's the guy, he's the engine. He, you know, communicates on defense, and let's be honest, the Timberwolves go as far as Jimmy Butler takes them. What happened when Jimmy Butler wasn't in a Timberwolves uniform? Yeah. Wiggins and Towns couldn't get it done. So, you know, people forget that this will be the team's second year with everyone. This is the second year with Jimmy, Karl, and Wiggins. Second year. And people are just like, you know, 8 seed. This is a team that was fighting for the 3 seed with the Spurs last year until Jimmy went down. I mean, it takes time with these young players. It takes time with Andrew Wiggins. It takes time with Karl Towns. It takes time with the coach. This is going to be Thibodeau's 3rd year. Let's pump the brakes here. Don't write off this team. 44.5 wins. I'm taking the over on that. If I'm I'm taking the over on that. And an 8 seed? If you give me a healthy Jimmy Butler for 82 games, if you give me that, this team is at least a 4 or 5 seed. They are. Because they proved they did it last year. They did it last year. They were in the hunt of the 3 seed. It was back and forth, the Spurs and the Wolves. Back and forth. You're telling me that they can't do that again? And the Spurs aren't going to be as good, obviously. They just lost Kawhi. They brought in DeRozan, but I don't know how good they're going to be. You're telling me that OKC, just because they got rid of Melo, yes, it's an upgrade. I understand. Carmelo Anthony's the biggest cancer in basketball. I understand that they got rid of him, but okay, so Paul George and Russell Westbrook, all of a sudden, they're better than the Timberwolves? Last time I checked, the Timberwolves won that season series, right? I'll take the Timberwolves over the Thunder any day, and I'll take them over the New Orleans Pelicans. You just lost Boogie Cousins. You just lost DeMarcus Cousins, and they're still better than the Timberwolves? The starting 5 is still really solid. Jeff Teague, Jimmy Butler, Andrew Wiggins, Karl Towns, Taj Gibson. I mean, that's a pretty damn good starting 5. And I think the biggest thing, and this is why I was just, when all this kind of crap came out in the summer about Butler and him not getting along with certain teammates, it's just the most like, man, you just wish it could just stay, you know, behind the scene. You wish you can just kind of stay within the locker room and not have these journalists spread the stories. I know it's their job, but it's just, it causes just this big commotion. And one of them being, I go on Instagram a lot, right? So I follow Jimmy Butler on Instagram. Every time this guy posts a picture, you got some moron fan. And I don't know why Timberwolves fans do it. I'll read you some fan just commented, I don't know what, he's got to be 20-something, right? And I don't know why Jimmy responds. But, so Jimmy posts a picture, he goes, one job of a leader is to show the lost ones the way. Every last one of these idiots behind me look, you know, stupid. They're a bunch of his friends. So some guy comments and goes, so show Towns and Wiggins the way, then instead of crying about them. And Jimmy Butler responds and says, I don't cry about bleep. I'm a grown bleep man. You show them since you have the answers. Like, you're not helping. I don't know why you do that. Like if I comment, oh, it's positive. I mean, I'm going to go and I'm going to be like, Jimmy, we love you. Jimmy, please stay. I'm not going to go on there and start criticizing him. And it's just like, I know it's very, very little, but it's very annoying as a fan because you're trying to do everything you can to keep around Jimmy Butler. Let's be honest. I mean, like I said, this team showed what they were without him. When Jimmy Butler went down, the Timberwolves completely downgraded. Completely. And they weren't a playoff team the year before Jimmy Butler. Everything changed once Jimmy came to Minnesota. Everything changed. And unfortunately, we will never know what happens behind the scenes with Wiggins, Townsend, Butler. That's just the honest truth. We don't know what's going on. So when he posts those pictures and those comments, we have no idea, none. And I don't think that I can't get a grip on it. I don't know if it's that serious or not, because it's kind of died down the talks. And I hope they've met, but of course they'll never report that Wiggins, Townsend, and Butler ever met and everything went well. They don't want to do that. That would be like, okay, well, we're going to calm down the drama. They want to stir this thing up, man. They want to stir every opportunity they get. They're going to try to stir it up. And it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating as a fan. And a team that, like I said, this is going to be their second year with Butler, Townsend, Wiggins. It's their second year, and Teague and Gibson. And guys are ready to flake on this team, and people are already projecting that this is an 8 seed. And come on. Did we not learn that sports takes time? I mean, teams take time. They were a 3 seed. A 3 seed with Jimmy Butler. As soon as he went down, everything changed. Don't jump ship yet. I mean, Timberwolves fans, what are you expecting? Do you think that this is an 8 seed? Do you think that 44 wins is going to be the case this year? Honestly? I mean, you got to throw in the Lakers as part of the mix, obviously, in the West. But OKC? New Orleans? Utah? Are you not better than when you're fully going? Okay, when you got your guys, when you got your Butler, when you got your Towns, when you got your Teague, you're 100% healthy, right? You're telling me that you're not better than the Oklahoma City Thunder? You're not better than the Portland Trailblazers? I mean, I know Portland was a 3 seed. But you're telling me that you're not better than Portland on any given night? Or OKC or Utah or New Orleans or Denver? Hell, you don't even know what's going to happen with the Lakers. We have no idea. We assume that they're going to be a playoff team. But that's still going to take time, right? Let's be honest here. 44 wins is a little disrespectful. And I'm taking offense to it. 8 seed, not this year. If it's healthy, they're not. If they are 100% healthy for the year and Jimmy Butler doesn't miss as many games as last year, they're not an 8 seed. They're just not. Good show today. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. Unfortunately, we are out of time. Big thanks to Coach Eric Reveno for coming on. Big thanks to my producer, Brandon Morton. I will talk to you guys next week. Be sure to tweet me some questions. Be good, everybody.